how much of our brain do we actually use? You've probably heard it before, we only use 10% of our brain. But is that true? And if it's not, who started this myth? Turns out, this popular belief is one of the biggest misconceptions about human brain function. For decades, the claim that we only tap into a fraction of our brain's potential has fueled sci-fi movies, self-help books, and casual conversations. It's simply not true. Neuroscientists and brain researchers have consistently debunked this idea for years. But what's the evidence? And if it's the 10% brain myth, then how much of the brain is actually used by humans? Let's uncover the truth. Whether it's speaking, walking, thinking, or even sleeping, scans show that almost every part of the brain is active at some point, depending on the activity being performed. Even when we're at rest, the brain remains active to maintain bodily functions and process information. Let's get straight to the point. The claim that we only use 10% of our brain is a myth. In early days, scientists identified some brain areas that appeared silent during certain experiments or didn't show clear electrical activity. It is a powerful narrative for movies and self-help books that promise enhanced mental abilities if we just unlock the other 90% of our brain. These areas, later understood to be association areas, were once called silent cortex because their complex functions weren't fully understood yet. Here's why. From an evolutionary standpoint, it makes no sense that the human body would invest so much energy into developing and maintaining an organ that is mostly unused. Not all at the same time with full intensity, of course, just as you don't use every muscle in your body simultaneously when walking. However, as we engage in various activities throughout the day, different parts of our brain are actively involved. Every part of the brain exists for a reason and has a specific function. The good news is, you're already using your entire brain every single day. Focus on keeping your brain healthy through a healthy lifestyle, continuous learning, and mental challenges. Each area has its specialization, yet they are constantly communicating and collaborating. There's no empty space or a big reserve just waiting to be activated. And even motor cortex, if you're tapping your foot to the beat, will light up. Brain imaging studies, technologies like functional MRI fMRI and PET positron emission tomography allow scientists to see which areas of the brain are active when we perform various tasks. Brain damage. If the 10% myth were true, then damage to 90% of the brain shouldn't significantly affect us. However, the reality is that even minor damage to specific brain areas can lead to severe loss of function like the ability to speak, move, or even remember. This clearly indicates that every part of the brain plays a crucial role. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Turns Out, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next fascinating video. Evolutionary perspective, the brain is an incredibly energy-hungry organ, consuming about 20% of our body's total energy, despite making up only 2% of our body weight. So, if this myth is baseless, where did it come from? There are a few theories. One of the most popular points to a misinterpretation of statements made by American psychologist and philosopher William James, who, in the early 20th century, wrote that humans only use a fraction of their mental potential. This was more about unexplored potential than the brain's physical capacity. Another theory points to early misunderstandings in neurological research. The myth also persists because it's appealing. The idea that we have untapped, limitless potential within our brains is incredibly motivating and inspiring. In reality, we use every single part of our brain. For example, when you're reading, your occipital lobe vision, temporal lobe language comprehension, and frontal lobe focus and thought are all active. When you're listening to music, your auditory cortex, amygdala emotions. Even when you're sleeping, the brain performs vital functions like memory consolidation, clearing metabolic waste, and regulating hormones. The brain is an incredibly complex and dynamic network, with areas working together in remarkable synchronization. So, the next time you hear the claim that we only use 10% of our brain, remember it's just a myth. What other myths about the human body would you like us to debunk? Share them in the comments below.